So let us look here to the ballot array. If you remember the ballot array from sequence consensus, we are in configuration C0. We have 3 replicas. This is replica 0, 1. 0 denotes the configuration. 1 is a replica. 0, 2, and 0, 3. And here is our ballot array. So initially, at round 0, the empty sequence is accepted. Here is a situation where replica 0, 1 accepted a sequence C1, but this sequence was not chosen, and here is a situation where a sequence C2 is chosen, and this sequence C2, the sequence that is issued in round 2, and it is extension of the chosen sequence before, and this is the empty sequence. So as we said here, if a sequence is issued, for example this sequence, then V is an extension of all chosen sequences at lower rounds, and that is the truth. C2, the sequence C2 is extension of the sequence, the empty sequence, which is the only sequence chosen so far. So now we'll think about how to end a configuration, and this is just restart a new configuration. We assume a very special command. The command, what we call the StopSign command, is issued by the management system that wants to reconfigure the system. So it's called the StopSign. This command is very special. So at some point, the special command StopSign is proposed. Fine. And the proposer, which should be, for example, leader, extend the current sequence with this command. Okay, that is fine. So the sequence that is chosen after this operation is done, the sequence with the StopSign command as the last command is called the final sequence in this configuration. So this is how we end the configuration. In principle, every replica executes a StopSign command, and this sequence cannot be extended in this configuration. So what do we mean by that? It means that no sequence longer than the final sequence may be issued by any proposer in C0. It means that if the leader gets a command after the StopSign command, it just ignored it. In this configuration, my last command is a StopSign command. I will ignore any sequence above that. And if that leader dies, another takes over, and it sees that the last command is a StopSign command, it will also behave in a similar way. So therefore, after the final sequence is chosen, no longer sequence can be chosen in C0. So after the final sequence is chosen, we just seal this configuration, and we call this configuration is a stopped configuration. So let's just see here in an example. So we have these replicas, R01, R02, and RZ3 in configuration 0. Here is a situation where we were before. We have a chosen sequence C2. After that, the StopSign command is issued and accepted by majority. So here's a case where the last command here is a StopSign command. So at any higher rounds now, this sequence will not be extended. This is the final sequence, which would mean if any process moves towards a higher round, for example, in a leader base to become a leader, he will not be able and should not be able to extend this sequence. He sees that the last command is StopSign. He will reject any command coming from any client. So as you can see here, the SSS is the StopSign command at C0, and the final sequence here is a sequence of C2 followed by the StopSign command 0. And as we said here, any sequence at round greater than 3, here, greater than 3, will still have this sequence as its final sequence. No, this sequence is not extended anymore. So this is the basic idea of how you end a configuration. So let us look again to the StopSign command. And here is a situation where this replica of that process, I mean the replica and the process have crashed. The process is executing this replica, and this happened here. When it happens here, it means this sequence is chosen. So, okay, because there's a majority here supporting this sequence. So P has crashed after the sequence with the StopSign command is chosen. And assume now P2 with its replica P02 or P3 become a leader. And so in this case, the replica 02 will get the same sequence again. Already P3 already has that sequence. So this is very interesting because it says even now, if you get the StopSign command, you still might need to do extra operations here because one of the processes might crash and lose leadership, and still you have to continue with the other live processes running and continue to get to the final sequence here. Two observations at this point. We have the final sequence C2 SS0. This configuration has stopped. And even now, if P3, process P3 now, when he has already executed, got the final sequence, even if that process have moved to a new configuration, this process still needs to help other processes, for example, in this case, P2, to reach the same final sequence. That is very interesting. That means that even a process might be in different configurations. It might be in a configuration which he is really accepting command and extending his sequence, but in a previous configuration just to help the other processes to reach the final sequence. So that is what we mean by a process can have multiple replicas, one replica in each configuration. Eventually, all correct replicas will be decided in this sequence, and it means now if all replicas decide this sequence is sealed, and these replicas are no longer needed, and the process can continue with the new instance that it had in the new configuration.